ORCID is again something similar like the Scopus ID or the Google Scholar ID, but ORCID is one of the first organizations to come up with this kind of an ideology. For example, right now also, if you look at something called for us, for any kind of Indian citizen, you see that we have multiple kind of identity cards. We have identity cards. We may have the PAN card. We may have the Aadhaar card. We have the voter card. Similarly, think of all these as different kind of identities that you have. So basically, Google Scholar is one of the researcher identities. The ORCID is another of the researcher identities. The Scopus is another of the research identities. Okay, so all these are kind of similar, and they have all of them has similar kind of information, and in most of the cases, all of them are kind of interlinked. Okay, so now let us look at what ORCID is. So ORCID basically stands for the Open Researcher and Contributor ID, or the identification, and it was introduced in 2012, much before Scopus even existed. And if you want to visit the ORCID, again, what has happened is that now there is a tremendous push among the different journals and the different publishers that whenever you are going to publish your paper in reputed journals, they will generally ask you for the ORCID ID. At least for the corresponding author, they are asking the ORCID ID, and that you have to mention. Okay. Similarly, here also, this is the ORCID. Okay. Again, the ORCID ID is created. This ORCID ID is created by itself, or even you can also create it. Okay, so this ORCID ID is created based on at least one paper. When you have at least one paper that is listed in the ORCID, based on that you can have the ORCID ID. So again, if you look at here, this 16-digit code that you see here, this is basically the ORCID ID. Okay, so if in any place they ask you for the ORCID ID, so this is basically an ORCID ID. It is this 16-digit code. Okay, so generally for most of the persons, the first 7 digit will be zeros, and then some uh, uh, other digits will be there for the remaining 9 digits. Okay, so this is what the ORCID ID will look like, or the ORCID profile will look like. Here it can show the employments, it can show the employment history, but you have to fill this employment history. For example, here it is showing all the employment history. Or what you can do is that even you can import this data from the Scopus. Okay, because Scopus directly takes this data from your papers, and from the Scopus you can bring it here. Okay, here if you look at here, it will also show the education qualification. Again, this information you have to self type, or you have to put it here by yourself. Again, it shows all the papers that you have. Again, from time to time you have to link it. Okay, I have not linked it for quite some time, or I have not visited this ORCID ID for quite some time, but still it is showing the at least 52 papers. I have somewhere around 60, so roughly for 8 papers it is still not showing. So this is the basic kind of profile in the ORCID. So ORCID profile is again similar like your Google Scholar profile or your Scopus profile, but the benefit of the Scopus profile as well as the ORCID profile is that both of them are free. Okay, both of them are free, and they have claimed that throughout they will never be proprietary softwares. They will always be free. So again, if you have something called the PUBLONS account that I will show you in a little while, it will also show you the review activity. For example, here it is showing that I have reviewed 33 papers. Again, I have not linked it. Okay, it is showing that I have reviewed for 33 different journals. Okay, so again, I have not linked it for a particular time, so it is showing 33. It is somewhere around 50 right now, but it is still showing 33 here. Okay? So like this is the peer review activity. Okay, it shows that I have reviewed for this particular journals. In the past, I have reviewed for this particular journals. Now, you already know that this is the ORCID ID and all that. Now, what you can do is you can sign in here. Basically, you can log in here. Again, for the first time, what you can do is you can do sign in Google, or you can register. And since I've already registered, I'm going to put my ORCID ID. You can either log in by the ORCID ID or the email ID and the password that you created. So I'm going to just log in. So once you log in, you have different kinds of options available. Okay. So what you can do is it shows you, it also links to your Scopus ID as well as the researcher ID. Okay, Scopus ID is given by the Scopus database. Similarly, researcher ID is given by the SCI, the JCR database, or the Web of Science database gives the researcher ID. Okay, so here, if you want to suppose say add anything, you can add them manually. Okay, you can add them manually, or you can insert from the other places. Here, in similar like the Google Scholar, if you want this information to be carried forward somewhere, you can use the export option. Okay, you can use the export option where you can export it in form of BibTeX files or in some other kind of file. The only difference between this information that is listed here and the information that is listed in the Google Scholar is that here you get the DOI for all the articles also, but in the Google Scholar you do not find the DOI for all the articles. So if you want the DOI also for all the articles, you can get this information from here. Again, if you want to add something similarly like in the Google Scholar I showed you, you click on the add work, and there are numerous type of options available. You can add it manually, you can import from BibTeX, and you can add by, if you know the DOI, you can add, or even you can link it to, or even you can link it to your Scopus database, and automatically it will take from the Scopus database. So I hope that all of you will set up your ORCID ID, because that is very important. So I hope that after this session, all of you will go to the ORCID and all of you will claim your ORCID ID, and all of you will link your ORCID ID to the Scopus ID and all that you will do, so that at any given point of time, all the information about all the papers that you have published are directly available here. And generally, when you publish a paper, they try to mention the ORCID ID also along with the published paper. Okay, so that is why also this ORCID is important. Okay. So now let us go to the next ID. The next ID is also similar. It is the researcher ID. In fact, this was the first kind of identification, researcher identification that was created, and it was created by the Web of Science, which is basically the SCI, SCI, and all those kind of indexes. Okay, so they were one of the first pioneers who thought they should have some unique identification for researchers also. Okay, so it was started in 2008, and similarly we have till until very recently there was a separate website for searching the researcher ID, but since 2019 they've integrated with the researcher ID has been integrated with another product called the PUBLONS. We'll see in detail what basically PUBLONS is. PUBLONS is a very useful website or a very useful tool for any researcher. But before that, let us see a little about researcher ID. So it is again similar to whatever you have seen for the Scopus ID and all that. Again, the problem with researcher ID is that it is not freely accessible, because it is proprietary software. Okay. Again, if you want to look at the researcher ID, you can now you can find the researcher ID. Again, researcher ID is directly created by the SCI or the Web of Science database. You cannot create it manually, because you need to have at least one paper in the Web of Science database to have the researcher ID. Similar like the Scopus, where you need at least one Scopus paper to have the Scopus ID. Here also, in the researcher ID, you need to have at least one paper to have the researcher ID in the Web of Science. And we'll look at what ResearchGate is, but before that, let us look at what PUBLONS is. Okay, so I told you in the very first kind of sessions that what is basically peer review and why peer review is important. So basically, what PUBLONS does is that PUBLONS is a place where place for the for showcasing your peer review skills. Okay, so a lot of times what happens is that in fact in 99% of the cases what happens is that most of the researchers, they do the peer review, or they do the review of the manuscripts free of charge. For example, if suppose say I am reviewing for any journal, then they generally do not pay us. Okay, they do not pay us. There are very rare journals. In fact, in my entire career, I have found only one journal which pays its reviewers, because it is again a society journal. Actually, the society pays its reviewers as a reward. But other than that, I have never found any journal which pays its reviewers for reviewing articles. Okay, so in that case, there is no incentive for most of the researchers to review the papers, right? There is no incentive. Okay, and there is no monetary benefit, or there is no other any benefit. So what happens is that most researchers do not like to review papers. There was one point of time where most researchers didn't wanted to review papers, because they were just they felt that they were just wasting. Uh, there was a section of researchers who felt like this, that they are wasting their time, and the time they put in peer review, in that time they can use it for their valuable research. To solve this kind of problem, or to give proper kind of recognition to the reviewers, this PUBLON service was started in somewhere around in 2012, And this was again a independent business at that time, or it was a non-profit organization at that time. But in 2017, it was purchased by Clarivate Analytics. It is the same body which owns the Web of Science and all those databases. So, and in fact, the Scholar One and all those kind of websites. So they purchased it, and from that time, now it has become more recognized in the scientific community. So basically, what PUBLONS does is, let me show you what PUBLONS does. So this is basically my PUBLONS profile. So suppose say here it shows my name. Again, you have to set up your PUBLONS. Okay. So the unlike the researcher ID or the Google Scholar, unlike the researcher ID or the Scopus ID, the PUBLONS page you have to set it up. Okay. For the first time, you have to go to PUBLONS. You have to log in. You have to make your own profile, just like making your profile in the Facebook. You can make your profile here in the PUBLONS. Okay. So what is basically the benefit of PUBLONS is that whenever we do a peer review, if we can get the recognition for that. Okay, for example, if you look at here, this is my peer review summary, which shows that I till now I have done around 208 peer reviews. Means I have reviewed around 208 manuscripts. Okay, and here it shows the journals and the conferences for which I have done the peer review. For example, here it is showing that 10 out of 50 means at least I have done the peer review for at least 50 different journals. Okay, so I've done peer review for a number of SCI journals as well as Scopus journals. All this kind of information that you get here. Again, to honor the peer reviewers or to honor the reviewers, what the PUBLONS does is that each year, somewhere around the month of September, they give awards to the reviewers. Okay, depending on they give awards to the excellent reviewers. They give awards to the top 10% reviewers from each country, top 10 or 10%, somewhere something like that, from each country. So I got a couple of awards in. Look at here. I got a couple of awards in 2018, 2017. Okay, I was the top reviewer from India in 2017. I was one of the excellent reviewers in 2017 from India. Again, this is a very prestigious organization because you have to understand that this is the same organization which gives the SCI ranking of the journals. Okay, so that is why this organization is very prestigious. The parent organization, this organization is the PUBLONS. The parent organization is the Clarivate Analytics. Okay, so that is why again I will tell all of you that after this session, maybe you can go and open a PUBLONS page also. And if you have done any review in the past, you can add those review here. Once you log in, you will find out how to add them and all this information you will find out. Another reason why you should have the PUBLONS page is that now, because the Clarivate Analytics and has purchased these PUBLONS, so you get this kind of information also here. Means this is also the website for researcher ID now. So here you can see the Web of Science researcher ID is mentioned here. This is basically my researcher ID. So it is followed by it starts with generally a letter and an 8-digit code. Okay, so this is my researcher ID. So again, what you can do is here in the publications, it will show my publications which I have published, and it shows all the publications and it shows all the SCI journals that I have published. Okay, for example, it is showing that this is a particular SCI journal called the Advanced Composite Letters. Here I have published 4 papers. For example, in a journal called the Engineering with Computers, again this is a Web of Science journal. Here I have published 2 papers. So all this kind of information you can get from this particular website regarding the Web of Science or regarding the SCIE papers that you have. Okay, so for this reason also you can have the PUBLONS page. Okay? Now it also lists all the papers that you have, whether they may be SCI or generally it will list only the Web of Science papers, and if you want to add the other papers, you can link with your Scopus and you can have that information also here. Okay? So here you can see it lists around 57 papers that I have published. So it gives a list here. And here, another important thing is here it shows the citation as per the SCIE database. Okay, here it shows the citation as per the SCIE database. So if you see here, again, this is something that I mentioned in my lecture also, that there will be a lot of discrepancy between the citations in the Scopus and the SCIE. Okay, there will be a lot of discrepancy between the citations in all these databases. For example, if you see my Google Scholar citations, it is somewhere around 412. Now, if you see my uh, if you see my Scopus profile, here it shows around half of that what I have in Google Scholar. I have 412 here. Here it shows somewhere around 225. And again, if I look at the uh, Web of Science, it shows around 120. That is around another half of this. Okay, somewhere around half of this. So why this discrepancy occurs? This discrepancy occurs because each of these databases are very selective. The Google Scholar is not at all selective because anything that is out there in the net you can find in the Google Scholar. The Scopus is selective in the sense that it has around 22,000 journals. So if I have any citations in any of these 22 journals, okay, or any of the papers that I published in Scopus, then it will be listed in the Scopus. Again, in case of Web of Science has roughly somewhere around 15,000 journals. Okay, so if I receive any citation in any of these 15,000 journals to any of the 24 SCI journals that I have published, then that will be listed as a Web of Science citation. Okay, so that is why you find that generally, if uh, when you go from Google Scholar to Scopus and Scopus to Web of Science, you'll find that your citations will decrease because the databases become more and more selective. Okay? Less and less number of papers are indexed here, less and less numbers of journals are indexed here. So the citation will also go on decreasing. Okay, suppose say if all of you are kind of new to the PUBLONS Academy or to the world of peer reviewing, then there is another important thing that the this particular website or this particular thing does is that you can train yourself to be a peer reviewer. Suppose say you do not know how to review. Okay, suppose say you are an early career researcher and you do not know how to review. In that case, what you can do is that, yeah, you can go here. I think somewhere. Okay, let me see that here because okay, this is the PUBLONS Academy. You can go to the private, from here you can go to the private dashboard. Okay, and from the private dashboard you can go to the PUBLONS Academy. And if suppose say you want to be a student, you can log in through here. Since I am a mentor, I am not able to see that since I train students here. So I've trained at least 4 or 5 students here in the PUBLONS Academy. So here, if you are a trainer, it will show the information like this, that I'm a verified PUBLONS Academy mentor. And suppose say if you do a course here, again that course is very free. It is free. You need not pay anything. You can do a course here regarding how to review. And if you do that course here here, it will show PUBLONS Academy graduate. For you, it will show PUBLONS Academy graduate. Okay. Since I'm a mentor here or since I'm a guide here, for me it is showing PUBLONS Academy mentor. Okay. So this also you can use this information of the uh, PUBLONS to train yourself in how to review papers. Okay. So now mostly we have covered all the information that is all the important websites and all the important technologies that is related to publishing. Just one technology is remaining, and that is the ResearchGate. So you can think of ResearchGate like the Facebook for researchers. Okay. So it is a place where you can network. In fact, in yesterday's session of collaboration, I briefly told about ResearchGate, that from ResearchGate also you can build collaborative networks. So again, in the ResearchGate, you have to set up the ResearchGate by yourself. So after this session, maybe you can go and set up your ResearchGate profile also. So again, here you can set up your profile by logging in and all that, by making an account through Google and all that. And once you do that, you can list all the information about yourself, whatever you want to show to the world. You can list all the information there. And generally what will happen is that if you click on the research, it will show all the papers that you have here in the uh, in the uh, in the ResearchGate. And other people can also see your updates. Other people can read your papers from here. Other people can directly contact you here. You can also contact other people from here. For example, if I go to my home, So this is somewhat similar to the wall of my Facebook. Okay, if you have the Facebook's wall, it will show the different kinds of feeds from different people. So it is, I generally refer to the ResearchGate as the Facebook for researchers. Okay, so this is essentially the Facebook for researchers. So you can, this is basically the wall or the ResearchGate homepage, where you can get information regarding the people those who follow. For example, I follow this researcher, so he has done some activity here, so I can see it here in my wall. Okay, so like this, you can get the papers here, and if you want to read the paper, if you want to read a particular paper, what you can do is that you can request the researcher directly, and maybe he can forward you the paper, and you can get the paper free of cost. Okay, from here, or the article, you can get it free of cost from here. Again, if you are if you have some very specific question regarding research, okay, then you can go and paste your question here. Generally, the questions that are pasted here are very technical. For example, if you can see this particular question, they are generally very technical, and you should also ask a technical question. Okay, in fact, it says that you should ask a technical question. You should not generally ask non-technical questions, because most researchers will not answer it. Okay, if you have any specific technical problem, you can go and ask your question here. And I have find this community to be very active. They generally answer you in a very small way. Again, you can, if you want to have some discussion, you can start this discussion here. So essentially, this is the Facebook for researchers. And in fact, you can find jobs also here. Specifically, you can find international jobs here for uh, different kinds of, since I have not posted the feeds here, I have not updated my search because it is not showing me anything. But if I want, I can search from here and all that. So here in the ResearchGate, you find jobs related to research, you find jobs related to professorship. Okay, so yeah, in fact, you can see it here. So here it shows the different kinds of jobs. Okay. Yeah. So here it shows postdoc opportunities as well as jobs. Right? So in that way, this particular website is important, or this particular website is can be useful for you in this particular way. Okay. So maybe you can set up your ResearchGate profile also, and you will benefit, especially if you want to collaborate with someone, will benefit a lot from this website, because there, if that person is also available there, you can directly connect with him. Even if you do not know his email ID, you can directly connect with him there. You can leave him a message, and maybe you can chat there with the person with whom you want to collaborate. So this brings us to the end of this session, and I hope that that you learned a couple of new things, and I hope that those of you who have not set up your PUBLONS page or your ResearchGate page or your Google Scholar page, you will go and set up these pages. Okay. So again, to summarize, DOI is directly given to each and every paper. Google Scholar page, you have to set it up. Okay, you have to set up the Google Scholar page. Scopus ID is directly given to the once you have at least one paper in Scopus. ORCID ID you can create by yourself. Researcher ID, or generally ORCID is also given to at least if you have at least one paper in the ORCID. And researcher ID is given once you have at least one paper in the Web of Science. ResearchGate you can create by yourself. PUBLONS you can go and create by yourself. Okay. So now, if you have already not done this, some assignments, I will give some assignments for you. The assignments are that go and set up your PUBLONS page, go and set up your ResearchGate page, and go and set up your Google Scholar page. Okay. So they will help you they will help, each of them will help you in different kinds of ways. One of them, for example, the Google Scholar will help you increase your citations. You increase your peer reviewing skills. The ResearchGate will help you find new collaborators, okay, so that you can collaborate with like-minded researchers. Thank you for being such patient listeners.